Welcome. In today's video I'm going to be taking a look at this case from Fractal Design. It's the Focus G mid-tower case. It'll take up to full ATX motherboards, and it's a bit of a budget case, coming in around £50 or 55 if you want the red or blue variant. I think the white variant's £50 as well. For Fractal Design to come out with cases such as the Define series, which I think came in for about 80, 90, £100, to then cater into a lower budget bracket, it really doesn't impress. So we'll start at the front of the case. I'll take you around through the features and then we'll go into why I don't like this particular case. So on the front at the top here, we've got the power button, we've got a reset button, we've got a hard drive activity light, headphone socket, microphone socket, and then we've got one USB 2.0 and one USB 3.0. I'm not sure if this is a 3.1 socket or not, but there's only one of them. The power button is illuminated, and that does light up white with a white LED. You can also see here on the top we've got two 140mm fan grills, and you can also fit 120mm fans if you choose as well. So underneath, you can see screwed in at the moment, it does come with a nice dust filter, just so if you aren't using them for exhaust, dust doesn't get in and start settling on your components. It's quite a nice fine mesh. On the front you get two 5¼ bays, and the whole front is a metal mesh that is dust filtered all the way down. And then there on the bottom you get the Fractal Design logo. Moving on to the left hand side of the case, we've got a side panel with a massive plexi window. This isn't tempered glass or anything like that. I've left the film on as this is actually a build for someone else who will be sending out in the post, so I don't want to get it too scratched up, but I'll just go ahead and take off the side panel. On the rear there are two thumb screws that are held captive inside the side panel, and as I take this top one off now, you'll see the first issue. So this side panel only fits in with the front edge here. The whole thing is very cheap. There's no catches or slots on the top or bottom of the side panel to engage with the top or bottom edges of the case at all. So as soon as you put the panel on or take it off, you can see the issue, which means you have to hold it in place, then get your thumb screws so it's good that they're captive, and then screw one in and screw the other one in. On the back, starting at the top, we've got the I/O area for your motherboard where that slots in. Just take note on how much room there is here from the top of the case, and just take note on how far out the fans step from the motherboard area. So you might have motherboards with quite beefy VRM heat sinks that might stick out quite a bit, so that's worth taking into note, and I'll show you closer up inside how far away that actually is from the motherboard I'm using at the moment. We've got another 120mm fan mount. This doesn't have any dust filtering, but naturally, sort of in the way that this case is configured at the moment, hot air does come out of here more than it does come out at the top, with the CPU cooler being orientated so the fan is blowing out of the case. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for a full-sized ATX motherboard. We've got a large vented area over here for any graphics cards. That helps to exhaust some of the hot air out of the case, stop it getting trapped. And finally at the bottom we've got the power supply area. You can mount your power supply either upwards with the fan in the top of the case, or downwards so that the fan's sucking in from the bottom of the case. Shocking. So around the back of the motherboard tray, we've not got much clearance at all. There's about enough room for just about my thumb in the back there, so that'll give you a good idea of cable management, where you can stash stuff. As far as routing holes, we've got a large cutout at the top area for your CPU power, and we've got a cutout here at the top also for any front panel I/O connectors. Also your optical drive cables can come through here as well. There is two 5¼ inch mounts in the front, And then we've got another cutout here, and only a few tabs for cable ties along this side. One there, there's not any in the centre of the case, so I've had to sort of bundle the cables together and just tie them together here. And we've got a really large cutout which doesn't do anything for the structural rigidity of the motherboard tray. As you can see, it is not very rigid in there at all. When I was installing the motherboard and the standoffs, the whole thing was flexing. It does get quite thin at some points. Here's another shot just showing you how much cable clearance there is. It does step out towards the bottom here where the power supply area is, so you can tuck some decent cables down there, but it's not great. They could have made the case just 1 centimetre wider and that would have helped the whole thing. But again, I guess they're building it to a budget. I did route the front panel audio connector through a little hole here just above the power supply, but I did have to do that with the power supply out as it wouldn't fit with it in. Just one more thing I forgot to mention earlier on in the video is the fact that there isn't much room at all for SATA connectors and SATA power connectors for hard drives. As you can see here, the lip for the case is actually not far shy of the power connector for the SATA cables, and the SATA data cable has to be bent at quite the angle. I could have used a right angle, but then it might have hit against the bottom of the case, so that's just not a very good design decision. They could have moved the whole cage further across in the case to cater for that, but I don't know, they've just completely missed that out. The 5¼ inch bays in the front of the case aren't removable, they are riveted in on the bottom of the case. You can see we've got 2 screws there, 2 holes there, and then another set there and there. The 2 3½ inch bays inside are actually movable, which will give you room. We'll show you more in the inside, but that will give you more room to mount a radiator in the front of the case. And if we move down, you can see we've got just a cheap mesh dust filter, another 140mm fan mount in the bottom so you can have it sucking air in. With the height of the feet, they're quite shallow. When I put this on carpet, the whole bottom of the case is suffocated with the feet digging into the carpet, so I wouldn't recommend, if you're putting this on a carpeted surface, to put the power supply with the fan intake from the bottom. So we'll have a look on the inside of the case, see what I mean. So it's pretty nice inside. The black and red two-tone, I'm not a red person, but it is pretty nice. This system is just a Ryzen 5 a Hyper 212 Black Edition cooler. This fits in, there's ample room between the side panel and the top of the cooler. You can see there in the front we've got the 2 3½ inch bays for hard drives, and the caddies do have the screw holes there for 2½ inch in the middle. As I mentioned slightly earlier in the video, this hard drive cage does come pre-installed in a more forward position, which gives you approximately 2 inches of space between the front fans and the start of the hard drive cage. I've chosen to move them back because I'm not going to be running a radiator in the front of this case, but if you do wish to move that forward, it's a case of 4 screws on the bottom, Phillips head, and then there's just one securing it to the motherboard tray in the back, just there. This edge of the motherboard tray is rolled, so it is quite strong here, but like the whole thing just isn't very, like I can see the whole motherboard flexing there, and that, I'm not really stressing it too much, but I can see that the motherboard is moving against the motherboard tray, and in fact the whole case is flexing ever so slightly. The front of the case does include 2 120mm Silent Series LL Fractal fans. These are white LEDs, and sound wise they seem moderately quiet, I guess. Cheap fans, I guess they just put LEDs on them to light the front up a bit, They seem to push enough there. The 3-pin, they're not PWM, but again you can mount two 120mm fans in the front or two 140mm fans, which gives you the flexibility for an all-in-one cooler or custom loop cooling. As you can see there, there's not much room between the top of the heatsink and the top of the case, and the heatsink does protrude into the area where the fans would be mounted to there, so I don't think you can really put anything more than just fans in the top of the case. Would I recommend this case? Not really. It's too expensive. This feels like a £25 case, like from a brand like CIT. Fractal is quite a reputable company, and I'm quite disappointed to see that they've sort of stooped this low to provide a case that's just cheap. It does the job, it's going to do the job, hopefully it doesn't get damaged when it gets posted, but it's just not very impressive at all. So thanks for watching. I hope this was educational for anyone considering buying this case. I guess if you like red, the red appeals, then you know it's a nice red, it's a nice paint. It's not exactly a complete gloss finish, it's still a cheap case, but they do it in blue as well. The blue's really nice, I love that. And then black and white, so you can go for a bit of Stormtrooper look with the white colour.